Daily Beast going back and looking at some court records of Donald Trump and his wife, Ivana Trump. That's, of course, his first wife. He's running in the party of family values. He's on to his third wife at this point. I don't really know how he gets to be in that party. I don't know how that party exists with all the hypocrisy that it's bathed in. But now in this particular case, we have an extra issue because during those divorce proceedings with Ivana, there were some very serious charges. Now, before we get to that, let me give you the context here. Remember that Donald Trump first made huge headlines in this race by saying that the immigrants coming in from Mexico are rapists and criminals. When challenged on that, he said, I mean, somebody's doing it. Who's doing the raping? Let's find out. Okay. Well, they went back and, first of all, looked at the book, The Lost Tycoon, Many Lives of Donald J. Trump, written by Harry Hurt III. He was, among other things, a Newsweek reporter back then. And they've got some things from the court proceedings in that book that are a little devastating. So, Ivana Trump talked about a time that Donald Trump had done plastic surgery to get rid of a bald spot on his head. Already slightly embarrassing. It's about to get much, 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 much worse. And he apparently came in yelling at her, according to her initial account, saying, your doctor fucking ruined me, because he was in so much pain. Okay, so far that starts out funny. Like, oh no, I've been ruined trying to get rid of my baldness. It's about to get very unfunny, because then apparently what he did was he took out his aggression on his wife, his then wife, Ivana Trump. The book explains how he tore her clothes off, started ripping her hair out, saying, you see how it feels, you see how it feels? And she didn't make him get the surgery. He's the vain son of a bitch who went to get the surgery in the first place, just happened to be her plastic surgeon. Okay, now here's where it gets terrible. As Hurt explains, then he jams his penis inside her for the first time in more than 16 months. Ivana is terrified. It is a violent assault. According to a version she repeats to some of her closest confidants, quote, he raped me. Now, it keeps getting worse from here. She goes and locks herself in a closet. In fact, from the book again, following the incident, Ivana ran upstairs, hid behind a locked door, and remained there crying for the rest of the night. And she said in the morning, after she'd been crying all night, she comes and Donald Trump doesn't seem to have very much sympathy for her at that point either. So that is a very disturbing tale, but it's from a long time ago. Now, since then, Ivana Trump has said a couple of different things. So let's be fair and give you the whole context, right? Because after the divorce proceedings were over, they settled. And part of that settlement was that Ivana Trump would not say anything bad about Donald Trump going forward. And obviously, there was some monetary exchange there, as happens in all divorce cases, okay? And so you take that in knowledge and do what you want with it and make whatever assumptions you like, but you shouldn't assume too much about what happened behind closed doors. All we know is what they said then and now. So later on, Ivana Trump, after the divorce proceedings were over, said, during a deposition given by me in connection with my matrimonial case, I stated that my husband had raped me. On one occasion during 1989, Mr. Trump and I had marital relations in which he behaved very differently toward me than he had during our marriage. As a woman, I felt violated as the love and tenderness which he normally exhibited towards me was absent. I referred to this as a rape, but I do not want my words to be interpreted in a literal or criminal sense. Okay, well, that could very well be true. It's also written in a way that is a little lawyerly after the proceedings are over to make sure that Donald Trump does not have any liability. Okay, so again, it is what it is, and you can interpret it any way you like. Those are the exact words. Now, Donald Trump at the time, of course, said, quote, it's obviously false, it's incorrect, and done by a guy without much talent. He's a guy that is an unattractive guy who is a vindictive and jealous person. It's such a classic Trump. What does his level of attractiveness have anything to do with this story about whether you violated your wife or not? No, he wants to say like, oh, I'm very attractive. You know, I get plastic surgery for the bald spot, so I look even better. And this guy's just jealous of me. That's what it is. Okay, I would have taken that a little bit more seriously and not taken a pot shot at the guy's looks, but okay. Now, Ivana Trump comes out today after this whole story breaks and doubles down on backpedaling from the original story. And she says it is, quote, totally without merit And then she goes on to say, Donald and I are the best of friends and have together raised 3 children that we love and are very proud of. I have nothing but fondness for Donald, and I wish him the best of luck on his campaign. Incidentally, I think he would make an incredible president. So now that's your statement from Ivana Trump today. Again, you process it any way you like, okay? Now, we go to Donald Trump's spokesperson now, because it's about to get weirder and, well, it doesn't get any uglier than violating somebody, but certainly weirder, okay? Michael Cohen is special counsel at the Trump Organization. When this story's about to come out at the Daily Beast, he starts a string of threats against the writer that are amazing. He says, you're talking about the front runner for the GOP presidential candidate, as well as a private individual who never raped anybody. And of course, understand that by the very definition, you can't rape your spouse. That's actually totally not true and deeply disturbing that he would say that. He went on to say, it is true, you cannot rape your spouse, and there's very clear case law. Okay, now let me give you the actual law. Daily Beast, quote, that is not true. In New York, there used to be so-called marital rape exemption to the law. It was struck down all the way back in 1984. So not remotely true. Now, in fact, you go to media, they explain marital rape is illegal in all 50 states. Not remotely true. Okay. That's unbelievable, man. Who makes that defense? No, I get to rape my wife. I mean, I like candidates who don't rape their wives. But that's just me. Okay. So he goes on to say, it's not the word that you're trying to make it into. She felt raped emotionally. She was not referring to it as a criminal matter. It's not in its literal sense, though there's many literal senses to the word. What, we're back to legitimate rape? We're back to a Todd Akin-like conversation? What do you mean there's many senses to the word? There aren't that many senses to the word, okay? And yes, it is illegal to rape your wife. And yes, it would be in the one sense of rape. So this is obviously very problematic that his chief spokesperson and special counsel believes that this might have been a perfectly okay thing to do if Donald Trump had done it. All right, now he's going to make things even worse. He says, there's nothing reasonable about you wanting to write a story about somebody's usage of the word rape when she's talking about how she didn't feel emotionally satisfied. That's not what she said. At the time, she said he was ripping her hair out, ripped her clothes off, and in her first description said raped her. In her second description said violated her. Okay? Nothing about, oh, emotional. Yes, she cried afterwards after being violated. Okay. He goes on to say, though there's many literal senses to the word, if you distort it and you put Mr. Trump's name there onto it, rest assured you will suffer the consequences. So you do whatever you want. You want to ruin your life at the age of 20? You do that, and I'll be happy to serve it right up to you. Okay, so obviously this Michael Cohen guy is a lunatic along the lines of Donald Trump, but there is no end to the insanity here because he's about to make the threats worse. He says, I think you should go ahead and you should write the story that you plan on writing. I think you should do it because I think you're an idiot. I think your paper's a joke, and it's going to be my absolute pleasure to serve you with a $500 million lawsuit like I told you I did to Univision. Okay, wait, hold. I will make sure that you and I meet one day while we're in the courthouse, and I will take you for every penny you still don't have, and I will come after your Daily Beast and everybody else that you possibly know. So I'm warning you, tread very fucking lightly, because what I'm going to do to you is going to be fucking disgusting. You understand me? I actually do kind of understand you. Who says to someone else, the thing I'm going to do to you is going to be fucking disgusting? Except the Trump camp, who does many things that are fucking disgusting. Originally, the original charge might be included in that. Certainly the response is included in that. He concludes by saying, you write a story that has Mr. Trump's name in it with the word rape, and I'm going to mess your life up. For as long as you're on this frickin' planet, I love that he switches the frickin' at the end as if that's going to save it, you're going to have judgments against you, so much money you'll never know how to get out from underneath it. Okay. Now, at that point, people go, whoa, what is this Michael Cohen guy saying, that rape is not rape and you can rape your wife, and what the hell is going on, right? So they have another Trump guy, John Santucci, jump in on Twitter and says, no. Response from Trump campaign regarding the Daily Beast article piece tonight on rape comment. It's old news and it never happened. Okay, sure. It's old news when I rape somebody. Wait, I thought you asked the question, I mean, isn't it fresh? Because Donald Trump, as I told you, was asking the question, who's doing the raping? That's what he asked in regards to Mexicans. If you're asking about whom, ooh, old news. Okay. Santucci continues, nobody speaks for Mr. Trump, but Mr. Trump. Dismissing comments made by counsel, you cannot rape your spouse. Okay? So they're relaying the new Trump, talking points. And then they explain, somebody else retweets and says, wait a minute, what do you mean nobody speaks for Mr. Trump but Mr. Trump? Your guy was on cable speaking for him last week. And then they reply, and earlier this evening. So in other words, like, yeah, he still represents us, and go ahead and hashtag piss off, okay? So brazen as always. Okay. Finally, he gets to a point where he realizes today, my God, even somebody inside the Trump organization might have to apologize. So Michael Cohen comes out and says, as an attorney, husband, and father, there are so many injustices that offend me, but nothing more than the charges of rape or racism. Well, let's pause there for a second, because I would argue that the rape itself or the racism itself should be more offensive to you than charges of rape or racism. Now, if they're false charges, I'm right there with you. I'd be enraged, right? And I have been on this show when we've done different stories on it. But you should also be fairly enraged about actual rape and racism. That shouldn't score lower on your list of priorities. Okay, he continues. They hit me at my core. Rarely am I surprised by the press, but the gall of this particular reporter to make such a reprehensible and false allegation against Mr. Trump truly stunned me. In my moment of shock and anger, I made an inarticulate comment, which I do not believe, and which I apologize for entirely. Okay. Now, look, some of you might be thinking, well, is this fair? It's from a long time ago. Ivana Trump now has switched her story, so maybe the reporter, was wrong in bringing up this old thing. Now, okay, remember Donald Trump's standard, though, on the issue of rape. Not only did he talk about that in regards to the Mexicans right at the beginning of the campaign to grab headlines and grab the Republican lead, but he's actually talked about it in many contexts before. And to me, the most galling of all the different times that he mentioned it was when he did it about the Central Park jogger. You remember that back in the 1980s? And they thought they caught 6 guys who did it. Now, Donald Trump took out a whole page of advertisement, giant advertisement, I'm about to read it to you, about these young guys who were caught. And he demanded justice for this rape. Now, of course, we found out later they didn't do it. And they were released many years later after serving lots and lots of years in prison. This is the advertisement that Donald Trump took back out in 1989. Full page ad in the papers. Criminals must be told that their civil liberties end, and this is all capitalized now, when an attack on our safety begins. Bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police. So when you're accusing others of rape, well, you want to do the death penalty. You want to keep out all Mexicans from the country because you think they're rapists and criminals. You helped to put those poor kids in jail when they didn't do it. And they served years upon years upon years for something they didn't do because you did your normal demagoguery and you grabbed the headlines and you profited off of it. So now when somebody asks you about what your wife said you did at the time, now all of a sudden you're outraged? All of a sudden, accusations of rape are the worst thing that your spokesperson or your lead counsel has ever seen, and you say, how dare you, to other people? Well, given your history, I'm not really buying your fake outrage on this. So take all of this for what it is. You've now seen all the facts, and you can make your decisions about it. But I don't think there's anyone less equipped in this country to talk about rape than Donald Trump. So please spare me the next time you want to accuse others in mass of being rapists, because now we know what's on the record, court records.